And just to touch on storytelling and how that is so impactful, especially for brands nowadays, because at the end of the day, we already know video, like content is king, but anyone can create content. So then the question is, how do you differentiate, or like, how do you stand out amongst everyone? And that's actually a question for you. With all the clients that you service, like, what do you see all these brands doing differently? So they're not like so cookie cutter.
Yeah, something kind of related to that question and what Brian was saying was, I think the people that are being the most successful have the diversity of the types of content that they have. So they're doing reels, they're doing long form content, they're doing blog content, they're doing standalone, really high resolution fire photos of them looking fly. You know what I mean? And they're doing this diverse amount of content, because the biggest thing is knowing your audience. And a lot of times clients and ourselves, we assume what our audience wants to hear from us or what they like. But if you have a diverse array of content, you're reaching every audience member based on what they prefer. And so you'll see really great engagement on something very random, you know, and then it's like, okay, how do we reiterate this? Because this random reel that we thought was low quality, was with your iPhone or whatever the case may be. Maybe our audience likes that really raw and organic content versus another client whose very polished content does very well. And so I think having that diversity and then using the data and metrics that you see from how those pieces of content perform, reiterate them. And if it's like a month where you need to make your ROI really quickly, do the one that's working the best all month long. And then next month, start being diverse again, because next month it might be a little bit different for your audience.
What do you think? How do you work with folks? And I have my own thoughts around it, but you know, not every platform is right for every company, for every brand, right? I think one thing people need to understand is really spend time, for lack of better words, mastering one platform and then figuring out which ones they need to branch out from there. What kind of checks and balances do you go through to try and advise to a client whether or not they should be on LinkedIn versus IG versus TikTok even? Obviously, YouTube is just becoming even more and more important. So I'd be curious to know just kind of the conversations that y'all have with clients as you recommend what platforms they need to really exist on.
So to Kelsey's point, it's all about your audience and where to find them. Obviously, we should be focusing on who your current audience is and obviously trying to continue nurturing.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you can't drift off and make intentional videos for Instagram and TikTok. And I always say, like, the more professional or like clean, or if you're a luxury brand, luxury type of content should be on the feed of your Instagram, but make organic content on TikTok because that's where those types of videos thrive. I have a financial advisor client. Her videos on Instagram don't perform as well, but on LinkedIn, she's been able to get so many new leads, and she's actually been able to get a handful of accounts just because of the content that I've produced for her.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking, okay, financial advisor, this one niche, they should continue targeting LinkedIn.
You're learning.
But it
You're
doesn't,
learning using the data. Yeah.
It's in the data, exactly. But it doesn't mean you can neglect like the other platforms. And we should also, the long form content, especially nowadays, is where I see true value. And I see like people that are actually getting like returning customers or people getting new clients is from the longer format content.
Because they're willing to invest their time in that longer form content. And I would just say, based on your client's comfort level, that really helps me determine what platforms they should be on. We were having this conversation a little earlier over breakfast. Like, if you don't want to be the face of your brand, or you don't have someone that can kind of be that, then LinkedIn might be the place for you, because you're not going to grow quickly on Instagram or on TikTok if there's not a representative or a person that people can like pinpoint as the brand. You know what I mean? And so a lot of my clients are comfortable with that, which is fine. But now I'm going to prioritize LinkedIn for you. Longer form content, thought leadership pieces, some video, but video recaps of the events. You may not be the highlight of that because you don't feel comfortable doing that. And they grow really well on there too.